Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about Superman issue 37, written by Joshua Williamson, with art by Dan Mora, colors by Alejandro Sanchez, and letters by Ariana Maher. Superboy Prime takes to the skies as Metropolis's new Man of Steel, protecting the city and much of the world as Prime makes good on his word from last issue and ends up going on a bit of a sightseeing tour of the DC universe, even trying to sneak onto Themyscira. In the present, he regales Ma and Pa Kent with his adventures, thanking them for their good home-cooked food and that he loves that they are both alive, since some fans, Mark Waid included, wish that they were always dead since they see the farm stuff hampering Superman too much. The meta angle with the new Superman is really nice change of pace. It's adding a neat comedy angle to everything, and it means we get playful ribs at other writers like Mark Waid, which I gotta say makes him look even better than he already was, since he's currently writing Ma and Pa in Action Comics. They're a big supporting cast of that series, and they are just fantastic in that book, and it's a sign of a brilliant writer that they can admit they don't like a concept like Ma and Pa Kent being alive, but they'll still write them and still do a really fantastic job at that. They aren't just writing it out or flat out refusing to mention it or, bending over backwards to ensure that they aren't in their storyline. Mark has made them a big part of his storyline, being that it's all about Superboy and his origins, so they're going to be around, and I kind of like that he's still writing them and openly admits that he doesn't like them being alive. Also, there's a really neat bit here where Prime is wearing an Amazing Man shirt, which is a really nice elite ball knowledge pull that definitely, of course, he would know. The Kents, having heard stories of Prime from Clark and everyone else, are definitely a little worried he's in their house, but Prime assures them he's not going to do anything, and even if he was, the Justice League team that is stationed right above the house would destroy him. Prime admits that they have a real beef with him, and he believes they think he's going to hurt the Kents. And while fighting them is tempting to him, he knows that they want him to mess up, and he wants to prove to them and everyone else that he can be Superman. The Kents do what the Kents do best, have a quick chat around the kitchen table, telling Prime that their Clark had hard times as well, and they want to hear what happened to him. Prime reveals the day before, on New Comic Book Day, he helped out a pretty woman in the comic book store with some recommendations. She hits on him pretty hard, and since Prime is a big man-child, he doesn't really understand it, thinking that all he needs is comics, not to go and get a drink with this woman. Frustrated, the woman leaves, and Prime's boss calls him over for a chat, understanding that he gets pretty passionate about comics with customers, which for the most part is fine since he's really good with them. Now, I want to say this part is a big dig at Spider-Man and MJ never being married, since we see Prime screaming at a fan about something. We don't know who he's talking about, but he mentions how they should always be married, and that's my immediate thought, is the Spider-Man MJ debacle where they aren't allowed to be married, or if they are, their book gets cancelled quite a fair way into it, much like Ultimate Spider-Man. And of course, it's something that every fan wants to see happen, which is, Prime is, the perfect person to represent all fans, because he pretty much is, all fans, and he would want to see something like that as well. His boss, however, knows that he's been late every day this week and taking long lunches, and of course, Prime can't reveal why he's doing any of this since he's off doing Superman-related things, and he doesn't have a good enough excuse. Instead, told he needs to buck up since he's up for Employee of the Month, and if he disappoints him again, he's not going to get it. This is the stuff I miss from early Superman books where he's, just getting the job going, he's trying to find that work-Superman balance, something Superboy Prime never actually had. With Clark, though, there's that emotional check, he had his emotions in check, he understood, interactions between people, he was socially aware of what was happening around him and everything, but Prime is none of that. Prime has none of that whatsoever because, he's been locked in an Owen prison cell or often his own dream world for most of his life, but I like that he's slowly learning all of these little things, and I like that he makes this Employee of the Month thing this big thing in his head, he wants that, he wants to prove to everyone that he can get that, and I kind of find that really cool. It's thoroughly interesting and refreshing. Later on, Prime tells himself he's going to get that Employee of the Month award, but first he wants to make another quick stop to a place on his bucket list, Crime Alley. Heading to Gotham, Prime finds the darkened alley and Robin, who attacks him with his sword, breaking it over Prime's head. Damian demands to know what he's doing in Gotham, wanting the sightseeing hero gone from his city. Prime manages to stop Damian though, wanting to ask him a question, since he knows Damian Wayne has a reputation of a killer, but he beat the rap and turned it all around, and now people see him as a hero and even like him. Damian though doesn't really care, and he gives the most Damian answer ever, knowing he assumes people hate him and that's why he stopped caring. Prime helps Damian get into the sewers, where Robin says he's busy since one of Batman's rogues stole a chemical from Star Labs and he's been tracking them into the tunnels under the city. Prime of course wants to help out with the villain, and almost immediately the heroes are attacked by Clayface, who targets Prime first. Prime and Damian are a match I didn't know I wanted until I saw it. It makes so much sense, and with Prime trying to be a better hero, something Damian had to do, and something that Williamson had a big hand in writing, I think it just makes sense that these two get teamed up here. It makes sense that he would come to Damian and look for help, or, just ask for help. On top of that, it's also nice to see a writer and artist like Williamson and Dan Mora remember Damian actually isn't a child anymore, but almost teenager, someone who's almost of college age. That's something he's been dealing with over in the Fraction run, where he's been accepted into colleges and he's got to decide whether he needs to grow up and actually be a person out in the world, or whether he just wants to be stuck as Damian the Robin. So I like that Williamson is honoring that here by making him, just that little bit older. He's got that, newer Robin costume on, which I really love from that Fraction run. And it's a match that makes sense to me. Prime ends up keeping Clayface busy by never shutting up, going on about how his favorite Clayface is the one he's currently fighting. However, he's more of a pre-Crisis fan. Eventually, Prime spots the bomb with his X-ray vision and directs Robin to it as Superman shows up, but Prime immediately sees through this and punches Supe in the face, since it's just Clayface pretending to be the hero, not enjoying the villain playing with his emotions. Prime freezes Clayface with his freeze breath and smashes him to pieces, which is not really the right way to deal with it, since Robin needed him to stop the bomb. Prime instead just grabs the bomb and flies up into the sky, with Robin telling him he can't just throw it into the sky and let it explode, since the chemicals will just rain down on the city, but Prime instead throws the bomb into the air and blasts it into atoms with his heat vision. Just like when fighting Ignition last issue though, Prime suddenly becomes a sketch drawing, his memory rewritten into one where he kills Blue Beetle and the rest of the Justice League, told by an unseen voice that this is who he really is and he cannot deny his destiny. So the voice boxes in this, for this voice are purple and kind of nebulous, and of course it's Manchester Black, and Manchester Black is messing with Prime. I guess he's trying to rewrite Prime's memories or get him to snap. And as I said before, I could see this as Black trying to get a win over Superman, like he manages to corrupt Prime and thus he's kind of fulfilled his original mission, which was to turn Superman and make Superman snap, break Superman, if you will, when, he was breaking him with the Elite. So I could see him, changing tactics with Prime and, seeing an easier target there with Prime, because we have seen Prime does, still have that anger issue a little bit. But that's really cool. I really like that's an interesting take on Manchester. It's a cool change from his usual MO. He's now kind of manipulating a person's memories and trying to trick them into becoming something that they are trying so hard not to. I also have to wonder if this is Williamson kind of giving a voice and something physical to that part of Prime's brain, which tells him that this is all he is. That part I think everyone in their head has, that anxiety in the back of your mind that tells you you're not who you really are and you're nothing, or stuff like that little voice in your head. And I wonder if this is Williamson giving a visualization to that for Prime, which is quite interesting. Overcome by the nightmarish visions, Prime passes out and he eventually wakes up on a rooftop, finding that Robin waited for him all night, despite the possibility he could have been captured by the GCPD, who are currently hunting him and the Bat family. Prime hopes that they are super friends now, but Damian isn't sold just yet, and Prime realizes that it's quite late in the day. It's actually after 10 AM and he's late for his job. Before he goes though, Damian reveals that he lied before and he does care about his reputation, and the change he made was not easy, and all Prime needs to do is keep trying. Prime thanks Damien and speeds off to Metropolis, quickly changing and racing into the comic shop, but he is too late and his boss has given the Employee of the Month award to another employee. So I was sure the way the boss was talking about Prime and the Employee of the Month thing and, what he was doing with his job, earlier on in the issue, it kind of felt to me like they were setting up as like, oh, if he fails this again, he's going to get fired. And that's going to be another thing that, kind of piles on Prime and kind of makes him go down the dark path a little bit. But I guess he's still an employee. I guess he's still working. He's just kind of got a warning and didn't get the Employee of the Month thing, which he really wanted. I am very glad that the comic book shop storyline is staying around. I think that's a great job for Prime, just because, it leads to some really fun stuff, which we've seen in this issue where he's getting into arguments over Spider-Man and MJ's marriage and stuff like that. It's also something we've never had in a Superman comic book before, so I'm intrigued to see what they're going to do with that going forward. Back in the present, Prime finishes his story to the Kents, telling them that he saved Gotham and made a few new friends, but he really wanted that award at work since it was important to him and he can't even move without the Justice League watching over him. He believes that no matter how hard he tries, people will only ever see him for his past mistakes. Now see, I'd call him a little bit more than past mistakes, some of the stuff he did, killing Superboy, destroying entire planets and stuff, then they're a little bit more than mistakes. I get what he's saying, but yeah, they're a little bit more than just mistakes, Superboy Prime. Mark Kent decides to solve his problems for him, going outside and calling down Power Girl, telling Paige that she knows her and the League mean well, and that she is angry for Prime's role in what happened in Infinite Crisis, but she can't expect him to learn all of this if they are all just going to watch him constantly and not let him try to make up for his mistakes. The power Mark Kent has to give these great little speeches that instill, trust and hope and just inspire people and things in others is just like magic. Like, that's her superpower. That's the Kent superpower. The use of the Kents in the comics as of late has just been nothing short of perfect. They've been used exactly how they should be used as, the supporting cast who are there to sort of, pick up the hero when they're down on their luck, impart some wisdom, give, bits of plot and here and there. But I just love how Williamson used them here, and then what Wade is using them over in Action Comics. They just they're in the perfect role at the moment. Partnering Prime with them also makes sense. They the magicians behind those inspirational speeches they give to Clark and everything, and it's something that Prime needs. He needs that mentor to help him get through all the darkness that he has in himself. And usually that would be Superman, but Superman's not around, so we'll just use Superman's parents. It just makes so much sense. Ma returns to the house and wants to hear about the girl Prime met, who he thinks is very nice, and at that very moment back in Metropolis, the woman enters into a supposedly haunted house down the block from the comic shop, heading to the basement where a strange demonic ritual is being conducted by two hooded cult leaders, whom she tells Prime will be the perfect person for their sacrifice. So as it turns out, this woman is Witchfire, an old Justice League villain created by Kurt Busiek during his run, and from what we've seen in solicitations, she might become Prime's romantic interest, although she'll probably end up, trying to mind control him or something like that. Some of the stuff we've seen in covers and stuff, again, it's just covers because, they are just there to sell the comics, but I can see them forming some sort of romantic interest. She's definitely the type of woman, villain that Prime would want to go for. And I'm intrigued to see what he's going to do, because yeah, you've got like that meta, thing with Prime where like he'll probably know who Witchfire is. I think it'd be really funny if he didn't know who she was, or like she's too of an obscure character. It's in a run he never read or something. That would be quite cool. I'm also really looking forward to the fact that Prime technically is not Kryptonian, and Kryptonians are wildly affected by magic, more so than kryptonite. It's more so their weakness than kryptonite. And I wonder if that's going to have an effect on him the same amount magic has an effect on Superman, or whether it just affects him like every other person and he's able to kind of combat it a little bit better. It's definitely a really interesting villain for him to face, a magical villain. I feel like we don't really get a lot of magical villains with super people, but I'm really looking forward to what Williamson has in store for us. Superman issue 37 continued to build out Superboy Prime as a hero and the troubles he's going through to prove that he is a changed man to pretty much everyone in the DC universe. Williamson uses the Kents and Damian Wayne really well this issue, putting Prime on the right path with a really simple lesson: just try, which is a great simplification of the core of Superman, who is just, do good, always put in the effort, and just try. There is a lot to like about this book. It's hitting all of the right keys for me. It's just really fun. It's looking fantastic thanks to Dan Mora. It's got an interesting, refreshing new setup with Prime, the comic book shop, and just how he's dealing with being a superhero. And that's kind of been a winning formula for not just this book, but all of the Superman family books. They've all got something for someone to love. There's something for every type of fan out there at the moment, and this is just adding to that. This is just another winning formula in my book, and can't wait to see where Williamson goes with it. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10.